Welcome, folks. Welcome to another edition of Josh Rants on the Heritage Wealth Planning YouTube channel. The rant section is just things I've seen in my course of reading day to day that I want to bring to your attention because I think they have I think my take might be a little bit interesting. And what we're going to talk about here today is the Donald Trump tariffs on steel, in particularly from China, and the trade wars that might result from that. A lot of people are using this, a lot of economists and investment gurus. It reminds them of the Smoot-Hawley tariffs from the 30s, which really hurt in terms of the economy and made the Great Depression more of a Great Depression as opposed to the Great Recession we had in the late 2000s, first decade of 2000. Many economists, and somewhat rightly, will say Smoot-Hawley trade tariffs really is what the straw that broke the back that made the Great Depression start significantly. And of course, remember, there's still 25% unemployment even into 1937. So we had the stock market crash in 1929, the Smoot-Hawley tariffs, I think it was 1930, and that certainly propelled some economic downturn, but the Great Depression maintained itself until 1938. And again, in 1937, there was still 25% unemployment in the United States. Think about that. 25% unemployment. This is amazing. So anyway, with that in the background, a lot of people are nervous. And so we see trade wars are bad, no one wins. Tariffs put markets on alert. Are Trump steel and aluminum tariffs good for America? I saw something in Vanity Fair who don't like Trump. They're saying, Trump puts on tariffs and the stock market responded with a 550 point decline in the Dow. So a lot of nervous Nellies out there, and the free trader that I am, well, I would be too, if there was such a thing as free trade. But when it comes to steel, and particularly in aluminum as well, but when it comes to these two products, are we truly dealing with a free trade environment? And when we're dealing with China, the communist China? And the answer is no, for sure. But even more than that, there are some things that are quite important that need to be manufactured domestically. And the old Adam Smith invisible hand probably doesn't work this well in this concept of steel and aluminum, and I'll tell you why here in just a second. But Adam Smith concept was the candle maker and the bread maker. They're going to each create their own product for their own self-interest, and they're going to trade accordingly. That's great. So now I have a candle. You have a stick of. I have a stick of candle. You have a loaf of bread. I'm an expert at candle making. You're an expert at bread making. It's called the opportunity cost, comparative advantage. All these things are basic economic terms. When it comes to steel, there's more to it than that. And I want to share with you this wonderful article from a few years back. Let me see if I can't go up here to show you the headline. Electric grid large power transformers take up to 2 years to build. Large power transformers are essential critical infrastructure to the electric grid, all right, and they weigh 820,000 pounds. So we're talking tons and tons and tons. If a large power is destroyed by something, severe weather, floods, simply old age, parts or all of the electrical grid could be down in a region for 6 months to 2 years. Now, I'm not so worried about an EMP. I am worried about severe weather, floods, or old age. If a large power transformer is destroyed by old age, parts or all of the electric grid could be down in a region for 6 months to 2 years. Folks, our infrastructure is aging drastically. It is old. This is the big concern we have right there, is a lot of these transformers that we have are old, built in the 50s and 60s and 70s. Now, let's go down a little bit more. And I will tell you right now, we can have all the economic growth in the world, but it all relies on one thing, and that's the electricity to power things like I'm doing here. If we don't have electricity, we're not going to have an economic growth. It's just not going to happen. We've got to protect the grid, and steel in particular is a way to do that. And let me show you. Actually, this is from the DOE, Department of Energy. Large power transformers, LPTs, have long been a concern for the U.S. electricity sector because the failure of a single unit can cause temporary service interruption and lead to collateral damage, i.e., if we lose electricity, economic activity grinds to a halt. No other way around that. All the free trade in the world, all the economics that we've known and loved about free trade, it comes to a screeching halt if we don't have the electricity to power our devices. Not just your cell phones, but to put the lights on, to have all the electricity we need. If we don't have that, the things come to a screeching halt. I want to show you something though. The extended lead time that can stretch beyond 20 months and up to 5 years in extreme cases if the manufacturer has difficulty obtaining key inputs to build a new LPT. They can cost millions of dollars, weigh between 100 and 400 tons. But the issue is it can take an extended lead time to build one if the manufacturer has difficulty obtaining the key inputs, such as bushings and other key raw materials. But watch this. You think that's bad? While the estimated total number of LPTs installed in the United States is unavailable, it could be in the range of tens of thousands, include LPTs that are medium voltage transmission lines. This is what I want to talk about. Specific grade electrical steel is used for the core of a specific grade electrical steel is used for the core. If I can get back there. Yeah. Special grade electrical steel is used for the core of the power transformer and is critical to the efficiency and performance of the equipment. Special grade electrical steel is essentially what these LPTs are built on. Well, guess where that steel is made, folks? Let's see if I can't. Oh, I'll show you here in a second. The average age of installed LPTs in the U.S. is approximately 38 to 40 years, with 70% of LPTs being 25 years old or older. A life expectancy of the transformer varies depending on how it's used. Aging power transformers are potentially subject to increased risk of failure. So a special electrical steel is needed to build these technologies. Our transformers are old, running about 40 years old on average, with 70% of them being 25 years old or more. And aging power transformers are potentially subject to an increased risk of failure. Well, guess where that special steel comes from? The United States has a limited domestic capacity to produce LPTs. Why? Here's what we have to look at. Electrical steel is the most critical component that has the greatest impact on the performance of the power transformer, because it's designed to provide low core loss and high permeability, which are essential to efficient and economic power transformers. Electrical steel is the most critical component of our power transformers. And who produces the most electrical steel? China. In 2009, China's 4 companies produced 35% of the world's electrical steel, the majority of which was consumed domestically. Japan produced 14%, and two U.S. producers account for only 14% of the world's electrical steel production. Infrastructure investment in developed countries, us, was a replacement market for aging infrastructure. In addition to aging infrastructure, the United States has a need for transmission expansion and upgrade to accommodate new generation connections and maintain electrical reliability. So what it all comes down with here is we need electrical steel desperately. We produce a little bit, but we need a whole lot more to cover our new infrastructure needs. We've got to replace these aging LPTs. We've got to keep the electricity running in the United States. If a tariff it bothers you because of free trade, what would bother you more is when the grid goes down, we don't have the transformers we need to keep the grid running, and we have to go to China to help us. That's a pretty scary thought. China is not our friend when it comes to trading. That doesn't mean they're evil people. It just means at the end of the day, they are a competitor of ours, and all the invisible hands in the world are not going to change that. Anyway, hope this helps. If you have questions or comments, I'd love to hear them below. As always, put your comments down below. Hit subscribe so you can be signed up for more content I do. And then finally, hit that little button, the little bell down there that says notifications. That way you can be notified on further content that I produce. Thanks, guys.